Hello friends, today we're going to be watching a LCK Pro play Syndra in the 1000 LP range, a Zed matchup which I know you guys struggle with, and runes will be flashing on the screen for you. So first thing we need to recognize here is that this is kind of an aggressive rune setup. We're running Airy specifically because of the jungle matchup, which is a Sylas versus a Viego. So taking Airy allows you to be very aggressive with the way that you play lane, and allows you to generate pressure, which allows you to gain priority over the enemy. And this is what's going to really impact the jungle matchup. As we all know, Sylas is currently one of the most broken jungles in the game. And of course, Viego also has a very strong level 3. He can do a 3 camp, 5 camp. This depends on how he wants to play the game. You see that's a Brand Nami bot side versus a Lucian Ashe, and they're pathing opposite sides. So we might see an invade here, or we might just see them trading map to play for the gangplank. So Syndra playing for lane dominance here and agency is kind of the best way to make sure that they actually make it to the mid game. And you can see some very aggressive trading coming in here from our LCK Pro. Fiesta plays for Nongshim, which is the ramen noodle company that you guys all know and love. And the nice thing about pushing for level 2 here is that the moment you hit level 2, you're able to generate splinters, but also it just allows you to shove people off the lane, and then you can go and force all the trades at the same time. So pretty interesting. We're going to be seeing the W here. W does have a lower cooldown than the stun. Does mean that you're able to go for splinters more often, but does mean that you don't have a protection tool against something like the Shadow. But really insane engage here from the Zed, getting a lot of damage into the Syndra, and look at that, getting bailed out by Viego. And a very, very messy game so far. You can kind of just assume that either A, Syndra's completely griefing right now, or this was a premeditated play. I'm going to go and say that this was definitely not a premeditated play. I think it's just grief, but they do manage to turn this around. They trade Sums mid lane and also get first blood onto the Viego, which is quite meaningful because it now puts behind the Sylas. And of course, we can just go ahead and hard shove this lane because there's no TP available for Zed, which means that he is going to be losing a lot of experience here. And this is double meaning here. So the reason why it's so important that you get agency in this lane, and the reason why you want to play aggressively as the Syndra here, is because in melee matchups like this against assassins, sorry for the audio bug, one of the most important things you can do is delay the power spike. So when I say power spike, it's kind of just when champions come into fruition. So for most melee champions, that's level 3, it's level 4, it's when they hit a specific item. For Yone, that's Berserker Greaves. And for every AD assassin in the game for mid lane, it is pretty much Serrated Dirk. So not only does killing Zed here put him behind in terms of experience, but it also is delaying that Serrated Dirk. So as long as we prevent Zed from hitting Serrated Dirk, there's really no way that Syndra can die pre-6. And that gives you such control over the lane because you can no longer really entertain the idea of failure. And that gives you a lot more confidence as a Syndra to look for aggressive plays, knowing that you can't possibly die for mistake. So lane is set back to a slow push. This means that this wave will eventually come back to Syndra. Important note here is that you're seeing the TP come out immediately, and this is so that she can contest every single minion on this wave. And as a result of coming back to lane fresh, she's got full resources, and she has a lot more resources to work with, and a amp tome. There is still only 2 potions available for Zed, which is 240 health in terms of resources, whereas we have 200 plus a biscuit on the side of Syndra. But the goal here really is to prevent Zed from pushing this all the way in so that she can create a freeze. Because as long as Zed does not have flash, it makes it to where he's forced to respect the Viego ganks because he could come from any direction. We're seeing an immediate come in from Zed here, and this is not the ideal situation. Essentially, because she's forcing him to play for an aggressive play here, he is forced to use resources. He's not really forced to do it, he could be a little bit more patient, but because he fucks up, this is a very favorable trade for Syndra, and that is going to give her a lot of HP lead. And the other thing that you really need to understand in this matchup is that Shuriken does less damage as it travels through minions, which means that Syndra can basically play as aggressive as you want and mitigate half the damage. And then the W is one of the longer cooldowns, 20 seconds rank 1, and it does get a slight refund if you land multiple versions of one skill. So if you hit a double Shadow Slash or a double Shuriken, it will lower the cooldown. So every single time that Zed uses his W unsuccessfully, he's basically forced to play respectfully for upwards of 16 seconds. So every single time that happens, this Syndra will be looking for windows to generate either splinters or to create damage. And as a result of creating damage, we can eventually push that into a kill window, and that is how we get ahead in the situation by either denying gold entirely or forcing kills. So pretty aggressive gameplay coming in from the Syndra here. doing a very good job of limiting his options, and it could be a roam angle because it's a freeze, but he just loses too much if he leaves here. So Fiesta doing a really good job at just slowing down the push. I would like to see a little bit more damage on the minions here because this will eventually come in the tower, but that also works. Really nice damage. No QE available, so backing up, and that's a really good usage of tethering. Understands the maximum effective range in Zed, and basically plays at the max range there. Now this is a roam down to bot side, so the best thing we can do here is red side is basically just disengage. As long as nobody gets a kill here, Zed is losing a significant amount of resources. Now this does mean he's able to influence the bot side matchup, but again, he's just continuing to fall behind. They do trade top side, which is in the favor of blue side, and pretty much that's the best they could have done. Blue side is if they are going to be trading another part of the map, they need to make sure something's done. So it looks like Zed does actually get something meaningful on the bot side, but you take a look at the CS lead, and it is a whopping 7 versus 31. So there's two things that Syndra could have done here. The moment we saw Zed bot side, we could have pushed the lane. This causes a direct response. It's either Zed has to come back, or Zed loses something. If Zed does come back, it relieves pressure off bot side, or we maintain lane position, Zed continues to lose something, and we maintain a gankable wave. So whether or not it was worth it really just comes down to the overall opportunity cost. Zed essentially gets probably about 100 gold, but Lucian gets a kill. They trade 1 for 1, so 100 gold in exchange for 2 to 3 minion waves. Every minion wave is worth on average 125. He's down pretty much 300 gold for this play, and you can see that reflected in the assists, but as well as the CS just gold advantage. Now, the worst possible thing we can do here as Syndra is slow push, so the moment she decides that she's going to push this wave, she froze all of her skills. This is called a tempo play. A tempo play is where you do something with a specific speed with momentum in mind. So fast tempo is when you're trying to do something as quickly as possible to create momentum, and slow tempo is when you're trying to slow down a play long enough to where you can drag it out in your favor for more DPS, or just prevent people from building up that momentum themselves. So this is going to be an immediate reset, I believe, from Syndra. There's really no reason. She was looking for the roam, and then she saw the scuttle here. Getting a ward here is fine. This is a roam timer technically, but the thing is, she could have gone for a reset here and would have come back, but QE has been blown, so if she does walk forward, she's giving the opportunity for a WEQ. And looks like they do not really care. It looks like sound's a little bit too loud. I apologize for that, so we're just going to go and lower that. Friendly reminder, guys, if you do like my content and you'd like to support the channel, you can either subscribe to my YouTube or you can check out my Twitch, twitch.tv/Zianni. Link in the description. Thank you. But anyways, as a result of crashing this wave, it will inevitably come back. This is due to combat power. There's currently 3 blue minions versus 1, so with the positional power, this is 5 versus 1. The reason why she is pushing is because Viega is looking for the invade here, so she needs to be able to move while restricting Zed's movement. So you're going to see her immediately move, and she's going to head back. But she just needs 865 gold for the Lost Chapter. So taking a look at the gold right now, she's pretty much one wave off. Wouldn't surprise me if we just went ahead and played for that. And the QE has been blown. There's really no point in entertaining this fight anymore just because it's a waste of time. It's such a long cooldown on the E here. Really ridiculous play here. It's kind of surprising that that even is allowed to go through. It looks like they were trying to play for the collapse on the backside with red side, and that's why they got the false confidence to walk back in, but really subpar. And QE does land. If we find the W here, we might be able to generate a kill. And Syndra does find the 1 versus 1 onto the Zed, which is fantastic. E1 into the E2, unfortunately not enough range. Now, again, Zed is currently dead. A pretty significant size of wave here, so once again denying a shit ton. And you see the problem and plight of every single mid laner. If you can see this crab here, you know the frustration and the exasperation here at Viper3 for fucking taking this wave. Can I please get an F in the comments if you recognize the true pain that we feel here? Now, it is good that Brand wants to help us push this wave because it does generate more momentum. It causes Zed to lose more CS. But the thing is, we're now splitting XP 2 ways, and Syndra could have just basically dominated with a 3-level lead here and completely shit-stomped on this set. So, I respect it from Viper3 because this is a 100% solo queue thing to do, but I'm surprised he took so much CS. Because if we get the Dark Seal here, it doesn't really matter. As long as we get the Dark Seal, we go for boots, which is also completely valid. Another good reason as to why Ares more strong in matchups like these is you have access to boots. Sometimes when you're running first strike, you go magical footwear, and you find yourself super fucking slow, unless you instead opt to take perfect timing, which you often do in matchups like Zed or Fizz. Now, I usually run the same page, and I end up fucking dying to magical footwear being so useless until 11 minutes, and I definitely recommend looking for early boots because it helps you with tethering. It helps you maintain distance against melees, which makes it harder for them to punish you for positioning mistakes. Now, really nice double back bait there onto the shuriken and generating a splinter. And this is kind of the goal, right? Is that you have the range advantage. You're going to continue to look for short trades that you can get chip damage in. And then you'll generally create a window where you can just one-shot somebody off your ultimate combo. So constantly getting in small amounts of damage and then creating space before your cooldowns come back up. Really, really effective way playing Syndra here, and really good execution. There's no reason to be afraid of Zed because if he commits to a W forward, he loses the extended fight due to the balls being generated into an ultimate, whereas Zed just really doesn't have the damage to match until level 6. Now, I assume that we also know that Ignite is currently down, so we do have information here. So before we go into this mid lane dive, we have complete vision of 3 players bottom. We have complete vision of Gangplank top. So this is basically a guaranteed 1 versus 1. So at 774 HP threshold, I don't think it's a killable window, but the goal here is to either deny some of these minions, get played, or just force them out of lane. So we'll see what ends up happening here. So immediately hits level 6. This is god-awful timing. This is probably the worst that could happen, is hitting 6 off that minion, because now we're in such a shitty position that's hard to recover. And allowed to create space and go for the QE, really nice. Unfortunately, we do miss that Q, and missing the W as well. And you gotta remember that it's not as meaningful as just like... The easiest way to describe this is that when you miss skills or you're inefficient, you are losing tempo. Because every single time that you miss a QE or a W, that is a significant amount of time where you are not able to play aggressively. So every single time that you miss a combo in lower elos, not only are you creating a position of weakness for yourself, you don't have the safety net of your E, you're also losing out on the momentum by landing that damage. Because if we landed that QW right now, we're basically threatening a one-shot with ultimate. We can't do that at the current HP threshold because of the potion and the natural MR being 48, and that's why it's so meaningful that we missed that W and Q on that interaction. So W been used, could have dodged that and then went to an ultimate. Kind of glad that they didn't go for that play because it would have been a winning play for Syndra. Without Ignite, I don't think Zed can do this enough damage. And fortunately, we do have the ward on the Raptors, so we are aware. And casting the QE here. And that is our own Viego, sorry, my bad. I got distracted for a second. Alright, that has got to be the most brutal area I've seen. I'm going to go back. I want to go over that one more time. So basically, you're going to see one of the most common things that happen in the Zed versus Syndra matchup is you go for the ultimate, and then they ult your ultimate because you were accidentally too close in range because the ults are very similar size. And we feel confident making this ult play because we feel like we've got enough range on the back end of it. Because you see us initiating this ultimate, and we're like, there's no way they're going to be able to hit R. And then we force them to ult in, and fortunately the Aerie does get the kill over. But the bad news here is that their entire team rotates to Raptors here, and Viego gets completely dominated. A good QE, gets a free Splinter. But again, we're generating a massive lead in the middle lane, Serrated Dirk just getting picked up at the 8-minute and 30 mark. And again, a reason why Zed can't really do anything to the Syndra is that lack of penetration. So denying another wave here. Full vision of the Sylas coming from behind, so they actually are in range to get comboed now. Sylas can technically do an E1 to an E2, or E1 to the W E2, or he could just flash in the melee range and apply Q slow or even red buff. I don't think there's going to be much of a follow-up here. There is Lucian Call available, but there is no stun, I believe. Actually, there is stun available. A really nice sidestep and really phenomenal Nami combo. Unfortunately, no ultimate available for the Syndra, but she's just going to body block the bullets here. And oh my god, actually trading flashes here. Nice sidestep onto the E2 chain here, and if we find the Q, and actually running away, not sure of the gangplank positioning there. But I do like the aggression there coming in from Fiesta, really solid play. And just going to continue to pick up CS. Current gold is 1500, and we're going to see something interesting this game. I haven't watched this game yet, but I do know from the match history where I pulled it from that this is a crown game, and as we all know, every single player absolutely despises crown because 90% of the time, it's a useless item. It just exists to piss people off and make them frustrated. And it's kind of an ideal item this game because it gives you protection against the all-in from Sylas, all-in from the Zed, and the Keg doing 3,000 damage from Gangplank that they decided was a fair addition to League of Legends. Not so much great against the Ashero because, I mean, they could technically double condom here with a Banshee second. People in Korea really like doing Banshee second against stuff like Sejuani or Ashero. I've seen that in pretty much every game that there's been an Ashe or Sejuani. I've only watched 3 Syndra games from Korea, so kind of a weird anomaly. But Zed is currently dead on the map again, which means he is again losing a ton of CS mid lane. And you have to remember, if every wave is worth 125 and every kill is worth 300 and a plate's worth 175, just by farming consistently and denying CS with intention, this Zed is down a significant amount of gold. We are currently up almost 1.7k, 1.8k gold just by being better at farming and by pushing our lead methodically. Now, again, 90% of this is because our Viego did a level 3 gank, which is completely unacceptable. And I have to wonder again if it was premeditated or if it was just complete RNG luck. But it is no doubt that Fiesta has taken that position and has actually capitalized on it. And that is something to remember. If you are a player who's getting advantages, who's getting ahead and getting gold, how do we take that advantage and transition it to a meaningful state for our entire team? Because oftentimes in lower elos, especially gold or platinum, you get ahead mid lane, and then you don't transition that lead to anything meaningful, and then eventually you lose, and you wonder where did it go wrong. So how can we as Syndra here take this lead that we've earned in our middle lane and create advantages for everyone else on the team? The easiest way would in fact be to do objectives or small skirmishes, 2v2s, because we do have a significant amount of damage. But instead we're opting for the plates here instead of looking for the skirmish top side. And again, 175 gold, again, another example of opportunity cost. What are you losing by making a decision? If we stay mid lane, we're getting a guaranteed plate, which is 175 gold at 100% chance. If we rotate, we lose 175 gold, but we're also potentially earning 600 gold from a double or triple. So even if it was a 40 or 50% chance of that play working out successfully, you gotta kind of weigh the odds here and be like, is it worth it? If I rotate, do they just back off because it's 1.1k LP? Is it our team's fault? You never really know. But really nice sidestep on the Ashero. And putting the ball down in fog, but unfortunately looks like there was already vision. And using Syndra as a launchpad, but Zed getting absolutely annihilated damage-wise. And with the additional move speed coming in from Nami, this will be a successful pickup onto the Sylas. A really good distance control, something Fiesta has been doing pretty much quite well this entire game, is you can constantly see him re-evaluating his positioning. Am I too close? Am I too far? And maintaining a very solid mid-range. So again, positioning. It's what enables you to capitalize on other players' mistakes or to minimize your own mistakes. So the closer you are, the faster you can react to something going incorrectly. And the farther away you are, the faster you can get away from something. So you have to be able to toe the line so that you can make quick decisions, because 0.1 seconds or an entire second is the difference between a play being doable or not. Especially when you're trying to run people down after the initial engage. If you get too far away out of fear, you just allow them to create space and get away before you can re-follow up with a QE. And you can see her maintaining a respectful range, but also her position allows her to run them down on the back end there. Now, again, probably looking for another plate here. Just getting a significant amount of gold, 1.9k in the inventory. Wouldn't be surprised if we saw Sork Boots plus a Rod. A huge amount of AP, 60 AP, as well as a significant amount of damage. Kind of a greedy recall, but I respect it because fast tempo does get cancelled. Crown is popped. And this is bad. This is incredibly bad because, one, we are sitting in lane with 2,000 gold, which means that we are significantly weaker than what we should be, and we're not really accomplishing anything with us being mid lane anyways, because you take a look at our team, there's really nothing to be achieved here. So, no ultimate available. It's not like we can kill Zed, we're just continuing to acquire gold. But the thing is, I cannot pressure the Rift Herald, and I cannot pressure the Dragon in a weaker state here, just because my team is behind. So I would have liked there to be a little bit more of a safety recall. You would have lost a second, but at the end of the day, you would have been on the map faster. And initially, just going for the recall anyways. So I don't think this changes the recall at all anyways. I mean, control ward is probably the only thing that changes here. pretty much, yep. The additional wave allowed her to buy a control ward, and interestingly enough, despite being level 10, she's sticking with the yellow totem, which means that she has more stable vision. The reason why you swap to blue trinket at level 9 is it gives you better access to these neutral objectives, because you can check to see if a bush is being death bushed or not. You don't have to run into the enemy team just to place the ward down. And once getting back mid lane, immediately applying pressure again. The reason why we're doing this is, again, we look at the minimap, what is my teammate doing? My jungle is doing Rift Herald. Fiesta has done a pretty great job this entire game of recognizing where his jungler is in juxtaposition to himself and adjusting his wave manipulation to enable that jungle gameplay. So he's never really allowed himself to be endlessly pushing his tower because he has a position of power and he wants to use it for meaningful objectives like this dragon, or even just forcing stuff like the raptors. Now, unfortunately, got distracted by the Zed here, lost out on pretty much a free Gangplank flash, and we also could let the Rift Herald get reset, but with this aggressive positioning, I don't think anyone's going to be contesting this. They also did have information that Sylas was the other side of the map with the death of the dragon. We just go back to a pretty standard late. Game is pretty even, only 1.3k gold up, 13 to 12, and 90% of this gold is pretty much on Syndra. It is a 3,000 gold lead, and what is considered a pretty difficult matchup for most Syndra players. Again, we're probably going to be looking for a max range QE here, and then to a W. Just try to get some splinters. But what I'm surprised by is there has not been a Ashe Arrow mid yet. Typically, when I play versus an Ashe as Syndra, there's no mobility on your champion, you only have flash. You're pretty much just going to get Ashe Arrowed on cooldown, which is why Banshees is sometimes considered a really good second pickup to give you the, just kind of give you the ability to play as confidently as you want. Again, coming in from Sylas, and W committed here, and no flash available, actually available just come up. And ulting and then flashing away, wasn't able to find a escape here. And let's go run that back and see if there was a way we could have played this better. So flash has come up, it was pretty much, it just came up. We're pushing with no vision available, so we have one inventory ward. We have all our vision on the top side of the lane, which is why she's playing at this very weird angle that you see. It's because she's relying on this pink ward right here, and this vision from the scuttle. So the only way that we ganked in this position is from the bot side, which is what she's playing against. And she plays very aggressively because the Zed froze at the W. He runs in. She can't commit to anything because even if she does, it gets ulted by the Zed. And unfortunately, her E actually completely misses, so she doesn't disengage the Sylas at all. What she could have maybe potentially done is slowed down the Tipo here. Or maybe she could have ulted into an E and hoped the 7-ball ultimate would have been a little bit better on that. But huge shutdown going over the Sylas is probably the worst thing that could happen here, just because there was really no need. We could have either played through the Rift Herald, or we could have slowed down the lane. We could have placed any of her vision to make that play more confidently. Or maybe I'm just bugged this whole time and she never had the ward. Always a possibility. No, it just got placed right here. So basically, we threw over a huge shutdown, and now Sylas is back in the game. Sylas has always been in the game, Holy shit, he's 6'2", has a huge gold lead on the... Yeah, I honestly can't remember last time I played versus Sylas who didn't go 10-3 in my solo queue games. Kind of a huge debacle, if you will. But currently off the map, Zed is acquiring gold and experience at a expedited rate because nobody's threatening him. We did use the Rift Herald top to force in some gold for our K'Sante. K'Sante really busted champions, so don't mind. And really amazing our E2 here coming in from Cruz, or Cuz rather. And Ghost forced to be used to pop out. And pretty much, we have 2 minutes and 30 seconds on the next dragon, so I would probably like to see us play for that dragon, just because I feel like our 5v5 is relatively decent. You get a single reset with Viego, you have a pretty good chance. You look at the enemy team, they only really have pick potential because they're the Ashe, they have the Assassins, but their standing composition isn't really good because they can just get engaged on by the K'Sante or either the long-range Syndra picks. But again, if they do find Asher on any one of these players without Mikhails, it's kind of a dangerous situation. Now, you do see Mikhails being built as the second item here from Nami, which is a fantastic item decision. It cancels out all the Sylas damage as well as the CC coming in. Now, their team is quad AD, so that's something to consider here, but we're starting to rotate our players. Part of the reason why you put your mid lane into bot side is so that you can let your bot lane mid So by letting these two players stay mid lane, we're essentially giving us the opportunity to place wards in a meaningful position around the center of the map. And this also allows us to control objectives like Rift Herald and Dragon with more presence. Now, because these people are being isolated in the side lane, it's a longer lane, there's more room for def. And it really just comes down to who is stronger in the 1 versus 1 and or the 2v2. So if we're not going to be shadowed as Syndra here, I would forfeit personally because I do not want to play 2v1 the entire game. Something that we could do if we don't want to get shadowed or we feel like there's no point in pushing to generate pressure is we just freeze the lane and we hold it over here as long as possible. Now, if I had a pin, I would show you, but by holding the lane over here, you're not generating pressure on the map, but you're also zoning off the Zed, and it's not like anything was going to be happening until this dragon spawns anyways. If we want to push this tower in and play for tower, this gives us more room to rotate into something like a mid lane play, but it leaves us vulnerable, and then without flash, I don't really see it as the solid play. So pushing the lane here and then rotating mid here is pretty much a solid mid lane play. There's nothing to do until this next wave arrives anyways, so you basically stand around mid, and you hope that something happens while the other mid laner is catching that wave. Because if they go for vision control here, they can look for a pick, just like Syndra currently is, and it could have been something meaningful. Because if we catch the Syndra, or sorry, the Ashe here, we get to take all this vision and wipe it out, and then they'd be forced to face check when the dragon spawns because there's no vision. But interestingly enough, that was a really close WQ combo, could have been completely negated by a ZR, but huge amount of damage coming in, and again, we're super overextended, but they have the vision on the Sylas being split. Bubble unfortunately doesn't connect, but great stun assist coming in. Ultimate is available, so if we do want to keep it running, we can. And it looks like Viego a little bit overextended, but does have the Heartbreaker to get away, if that's what it's still called. I can't tell in Korean. But very significant play coming in from red side. Really great collapse using the vision that they got from Syndra pushing off the Ashe. And it is kind of an overextend from Sylas going into the pit here without any follow-up and no priority from his teammates. So this is significant because 1, they no longer have control dragon. 2, they can take the mid lane tower. This opens up both of these camps to being invaded and being pressured. And we also get another tower. So this is a really significant lead that's just being generated off 1 def. And there's nothing that blue side can really do to prevent this from happening. So Asher is being from mid. They're looking for pick on another start of the map. Doesn't connect. They just lost all playmaking potential for the next 30 seconds. So pretty much the best thing we could probably do here as red side is you take a look at our gold. We have gold on Sylas, or sorry, we have a lot of gold on Viego, a lot of gold on Syndra, a lot of gold on Brand, and no wards on the Nami. So by allowing the Nami to reset, we can refresh the wards and reapply vision in a meaningful way, or we can just hold it and then push it after playing the dragon. So resetting beforehand is probably the best play here considering how much gold we have available in inventories. There's still 30 seconds to reset. Unfortunately, the RQ flash does not connect from Viper 3 and he basically kills himself. And you gotta ask the question. We just did all of that analysis on how just doing the dragon here and taking the reset with the amount of gold that we have. Why do we ever do that? And the answer is, in solo queue, people get bored and they will give you opportunities like this. So you can see that even though this game theoretically is so favored towards red right now, they're still going to make mistakes because they either get bored or... Because playing the game correctly is at times really boring. Because if you play methodically and clean, it feels kind of lazy and sometimes. Now, that's basically 2 massive kills going over, a shutdown as well, and we don't get the opportunity to spend our money, so blue side has effectively reclaimed this dragon as a result of red team not playing around their timer. It was their turn to make a play because they had an item advantage from spending their money, they had cooldown advantage, and the enemy team did not respect that, and they basically killed themselves. So very awkward situation for Fiesta's team, and you really hate to see it happen, but goes to show how every game in solo queue is completely dependent on people making ridiculously stupid mistakes. Dude, Petricite Burst has one of the loudest animations, I swear. And if Ashe has E here, this would be such a dangerous position, but waiting for them to move towards his bot lane, preempting the tower, nice! And that was so close to Zed being able to get the ult off, but generating the ball behind with no fog, or with fog rather, adds another ball into the wombo combo just to make sure that there's enough damage. And 2v2 here, I don't think they ever really die, so Ash arrow does not connect. This play is basically done. They should just walk away here. And it looks like K'Sante actually kills Gangplank on the other side of the map, so a lot of pressure being applied. But again, we take a look at the inventory here. There is 2.2k gold available. There is 2 death timers, which is why they probably feel confident in playing for this, because they have vision of a lot of players on the map. They see 1 player, they see 2 players, and they last saw 3 players over here. So they effectively know where every player on the map is. If they want to play for 600 gold from the tier 2 tower, they can do that. But again, you kind of give the other team an opportunity to make something happen in that meantime if they make a mistake or overstay their welcome. So they grabbed a wave, they got nothing off of it, they just kind of wasted some time, and you can see that maybe if we had just reset and then reapplied pressure, we could start playing the tempo a little bit more quicker. End of the day, if this was... Honestly, I kind of hate this. You see that we're going for the Shadow Flame over the Rabadon's Death Cap. We're kind of already playing for a scaling game, and we had enough money to buy the Rabadon straight up right there. Would have maybe had the weight in base. Actually, I think we just had enough at 230, 2,350. So this is a conscious decision. So Shadow Flame allows you to hit a really strong mid-game spike at the cost of a little bit of scaling. Because Rabadons would outvalue every single item purchase from that point onwards. It has double synergy with your Splinter system. So it's kind of a weird situation, but I kind of get the idea of wanting to pad your damage, because per team doesn't really have an insanely reliable amount of damage. It's kind of dependent on Viego getting a reset or Brand getting bounces. And you have a tank K'Sante who converts over to damage. So it's kind of a weird situation. I can see why we do it. I probably would have gone Rabadons myself, but I also do not play for an LCK team that makes a lot of money. So I'm going to go and give it the benefit of the doubt that I'm 100% wrong about going Rabadons here. And Shadow Flame is going to allow her to segue and make a more meaningful impact on the game. Because again, it is more value to currently go Shadow Flame than it is to go Rabadons. It just comes at the cost of mid to late game scaling. So team fights happening here in the mid side. Collapsing onto the Lucian. Turning onto the Gangplank. Nice damage going through and massive one-shot. Which is partially due to the Shadow Flame pickup. Massive 6-ball ultimate, I believe. And interesting flash for flash. I don't think it's really worth it to trade flashes here for a support of all players. And the worst part about this is the game is still so early that there's no Rift Herald available, so it's kind of a weird scenario to be in. But a very well-played fight from red side, exchanging 1 for 4. And this might result in a tier 2 tower, which is another 600 gold. And our mid tower is only worth 300, I believe, so it's not going to be as massive of a swing as you thought, but this does open the map up more. And then we also consider that Baron is spawning in the next. You really fucking hate to see it, man. Man, this Sylas is fucking massive. TP actually came from behind as well from Gangplank. It's honestly not the worst. I mean, you trade a player and exchange your tower. You lose a bit of tempo because you have a player down and off the map for 22 seconds. Actually, in this situation, it's really not ever worth trading the tower for your player. I'm just trying to make something out of anything, really. Let's take a look at the splinters. 90 at 19 minutes, pretty standard. I feel like 80 at the 18-20 minute range is pretty common. And the goal here really is to stop the enemy team from finding picks with the Ashe or the Sylas, which requires either vision or very good mobility skills, which we are lacking because we have only one champion, or 2 champions rather, with dashes, which is K'Sante and Viego. K'Sante is pretty much unkillable in the side lane, so if they want to play a 4 versus 4 and an off-lane split, they can do that. If they do want to play for the Baron, I would recommend that K'Sante rotates in the mid lane. This is called a shift. A shift is when you play 2 lanes of the map and you have the player on the long side come closer to where the action is happening. Because if you're going to play this wide, you're kind of relying on the TP, so TP does enable this 4-1, if you will. If he didn't have TP, then he could just shift in the mid lane, and then he could just stand there and be able to rotate pretty easily, while still being able to win the 1 versus 1. So for this current situation and context, this is perfect. Now, if they do find the Gangplank, this is a pretty meaningful pick here. But it looks like they have information about Syndra, and they're going to be looking for a collapse here, and red team is kind of reading this, just because they have to shadow the Syndra here. And big turnaround coming in from the enemy team here. Massive pick onto the Syndra here. And what I would like to see is maybe we push the vision up a little bit more so that Syndra can safely push that lane in. But that was just a really aggressive position for all things considered. And a really awful bet from them. Now, fortunately, K'Sante might be able to trade something on the opposite side of the map, but it's really never worth dying in that position. And Sylas could be looking for something here, so I don't think it's ever worth giving them the opportunity to look for play in a 4 versus 3 situation. Dragon spawns in a minute, so most likely what's going to end up happening is every player is going to start shifting in the mid lane, and it's going to be a battle for mid lane vision into Dragon priority, so that you can establish vision control. But we take a look here, there are 3 wards available for the Nami, and only 2 wards available for Ashe. Actually turning around onto the Baron immediately here, and they can actually do this because they have cleaned this vision on the way up, on that initial Syndra catch. And it looks like the enemy team maybe has assumed that they're playing for this dragon, but pings it out. Looks like they have a general vague idea what's happening. Ultimate coming in from Brand for the excess damage. And this ultimate is actually going to give them the speed necessary to finish this Baron fast enough. And at this point, 27 seconds on the dragon. This should be an immediate reset. Spend the money that they have. Be as strong as possible as they can be, because this dragon play is extremely meaningful. Because look, that is 2 dragons up here. That is a Ocean, and that is a Chemtech. Hextech, I don't remember. Sorry, it is Chemtech. But they need to immediately get back on the map, because if they allow this enemy team to set up vision control, what's going to happen is they have to retake. If you've ever played Valorant, retaking is when you have to regain control of an area that you've lost. So what blue side is going to do here is they're going to get as many wards as they can get down, and force red side to walk into these bushes one by one and clear them before they're able to address this dragon. So the reason why this is dangerous is you have a Sylas with a shit ton of AP who can one-shot anybody off of a full combo. You have the flank opportunity from the useless Zed, so don't have to worry about that. You have the Kegs, which can basically one-shot somebody around a corner, and then you have the Ash Arrow when people are forced through a chokehold. So if they maintain these positions on these 2 chokes, red side has to find a way through. So one of the easiest ways to do this is to go through one of the wider areas, which would be mid lane, or through bot side. Now, in this situation, why go bottom when you can go mid lane and pressure another objective while having central positioning? Usually have to do that for Baron. But here, they kind of just have a player in every single lane. So they're trying to come at this from multiple positions. K'Sante being here actually makes a huge difference because it opens up so much space for red side to actually get in. And he's just beating the shit out of Sylas. Again, you see the arrow forced. And this is looking extremely good for red side. The Baron buff is combat stats, which is equivalent to another significant amount of gold. Solos the Sylas, gets an E-hop in, and significant amount of damage. Gargoyle doing such a fucking amazing job at soaking that damage. And this should just be a dragon that interrupts the soul point. Again, that was why this fight was so important, was that soul point, and the fact that they had that vision set up. Of course, the Baron stats make it kind of ambiguous as to whether they wanted to play for that, but I think that was their best chance to make something happen, or they had to just completely sack it. It is completely ridiculous that they are even looking to fight a 4v5. I don't care that Syndra is mid lane currently. You are down stats, you are down players, and you are down ultimates. This is illegal coming in from blue side. Looks like they're effectively griefing back in the same way that Brand has been soft-inting this game. And if she finds a QE over the wall here, it's going to be an instant KO. Unfortunately, we do not find it, but QE does connect, and that is going to be a pickup onto the Zed in the back, hopefully. Looks like the flash goes through. And we actually missed a kill here. Sell kill coming in from Syndra. Probably had 5 or 6 balls on the floor and just flash ulted. Because why the fuck not? We're playing Syndra. Not even flash available. I think she just completely eviscerated this guy. No E available, which means T1 Smash had to have killed himself. You're kidding. Just accepted his fate. He's like, fuck it, I'm done. I just want this game to be over. And honestly, I mean, take a look at the gold here. This is 12,000 gold almost versus 6,000 on the Zed. This has been an absolute bludgeoning of a 80 matchup. And actually baiting out the E2. Stun does find it into a bubble. Bran is face tanking immediate flash out after the Nami heal, and that is a 1,000 shutdown going on to the Sylas, which is, again, not the best scenario for a 4 versus 1. But what I would like to happen here is there is 4 death timers. They have a significant amount of damage available here. Just force the tower. If you take the tower, this opens up so much gameplay for the split, and then you can still get out before the enemy team can basically shut you down. So you see the recall interrupt. They don't need to take the inhibitor here, they just need to take the inhibitor tower because it opens up the opportunity to take this at a later date. So really well played. And then we can just go ahead and all recall, spend our money, and from this point onwards, you have the opportunity to either A, 5-man mid lane, because if you 5-man mid, you can take mid inhibitor into bottom inhibitor, or you can 4-1. You send 4 top to siege this tower, you have K'Sante take mid tower into mid inhibitor into bot inhibitor, and all these are valid plays. So doing a 5 versus 5 at this point is probably their best play, just because it minimizes the chance of failure, because if you're all together and you're that much ahead, you just auto win off being better players, really. If this is a min-max situation, 4-1 through top and mid is obviously the best, but if you take these 2 inhibitors, the game is basically done anyways. If you go through top into a triple inhibitor, the game is 100% over. So it's kind of like a 100% chance of winning versus a 95% chance of victory. You could really do anything, you just got to make sure that you're on the same page. And this is definitely not being on the same page. So we actually TPN, thinking that we can turn this around. And there is no Ashe Arrow available. Looks like this is going to be a 1 versus 3 situation. Will Syndra be able to outplay it? We'll find out. Volley is going to be significant and basically slowing down the move speed here. Red team trying to desperately reposition, but the stun lands, they're fucking dead. And barely any damage going on to the Ashe, actually. Not even an MR item available, just piss low damage. Oh, this is fucking frustrating to watch. Good E, finds the damage. Nice flash R. And unfortunately, there's no way we're going to be able to get on this Ashe just because she is so fucking annoying with the volley. Just kidding, I lied to you. I lied to your face, just like that. That's a really good usage of the QE through wall. And now it is currently a 2 versus 1, rather. K'Sante already getting pressure on the side lane here. And he actually solo killed the Gangplank again for the 90th time this game. Looks like he's currently 7-5 versus 3-7. And Baron and Dragon are available in 2 minutes plus. So at this point we have 2 options. Either we reset, spend our money, and then we do the whole thing over again, except this time as a team, and wait for players to get established on the map. Or we can just say fuck it, run around the map and look for 1v1 team death matches, and then eventually end the game off of 1 pick. At which point it will just come down to who has the worst player in the team, and is most definitely going to be blue side, because they are kind of refusing to respect dominance. They keep trying to outplay these things, even though they could just be patient and play where they're strong, because they do have the pick potential. If they have numbers advantage and they find an arrow, or they get Zed some gold, or Sylas finds a pick, they will 100% kill you. But they are over-forcing all of these scenarios because they are overconfident, and they do find a pick on the backside, 1v2. And opting to run away here instead of running down the Zed, which is interesting, because given how we played, huge backline stun right here, and a nice cleanse coming in. Ultimate is just fucking eviscerating this Gangplank, just deleted off of 6-ball ultimate and 6-ball ultimate alone. Currently 9-2 with 537 AP to the name. Fully stacked in the Splinters, by the way. And this is pretty much the death bell, because once you take these 2 inhibitors, they can just rotate into top side and win off inhibitor pressure. 1 death. If they do find a kill here, they might be able to just end the game off of this. And stun, it finds really nice onto the Syndra. Blue team just needs to clear the wave here and focus on looking for that 1 pick that can make a difference, but massive damage. Ashe is by far the worst player in this game and is going to get shredded. Ghost has been popped to WQE, gonna mincemeat that Sylas, and just watch this guy just run down, smash in the back line. Syndra changing her idea, and it's gonna be like, I'm gonna push this wave in so we can end the game, guys. And Gangplank ult is doing a great job of zoning and a instant one-shot from the W on a half-health target. And ladies and gentlemen and non-binaries, anybody else, we have successfully closed this game out with a significant display of skill. LCK Fiesta doing a phenomenal job. If you like the video, please make sure to like and subscribe, and I hope that you all have a absolutely lovely night and or day, depending on when this video is uploaded. Please follow me on Twitch. They're really just going to drag this out, huh? I think they're playing for a backline kill here. Ooh, yeah, they definitely win the game now before Syndra dies. Alright, bye. Thank you for watching. Much love. Meow.